Thank you. Okay, so I'm Adam Clough. I'm the practice lead for workforce planning and optimisation, which is a fancy way of saying we're the guys that work out how many people you need in a contact centre in the most optimum way possible. So the fewest number of people to deliver the best outcomes for the customers. So what we've got is our practice works on a framework. So we start at the top, and effectively it moves down in effort, cost, and speed of benefit. So things like locations, I sit in the optimise bucket, which is about operating model design, workforce optimisation. We then move into technology, which enhances the agent and journey, and then we move into customer-facing technology. So as you work down, you kind of need to do the steps before to get the full benefit out of your transformation track. So I start pretty much right at the beginning. So it's a bit of a double act between me and the data guys, because I need all the work they do to fuel the work I do. So these are sort of a number of use cases of why customers come to us for workforce optimisation. So we get things like customers who are abandoning calls, failing service, all that sort of stuff, and they want help to dig themselves out of a hole with that. Some customers just want to be able to generate more flexibility or more efficiency and get more effective outcomes from the current work pool they've got. New workforce management system. So if you put a new workforce management system in, one of the key things to do is to make sure that you do not put broken processes and suboptimal operating models replicated into the workforce management system, because you won't get the full benefit out of all the efficiencies it can give you if you end up putting something that's suboptimal into it in the first place. So we help a lot of customers work out what's the best way to organise the work and organise all those sorts of bits and pieces before they then buy and implement any workforce management tool. Tracking transformation benefits, another key one. Most contact centre organisations have some sort of planning model where they work out how many people they need, whether they do it in the system or they do it outside of that. But one of the hard things that they find is to track the impacts of transformation. And we can help with that. We've got a number of sort of tools and models where you can plug benefits in, and in real time you can see what the actual outcome would be. Things like if you change your average handle time, if you moved your volume about, if you multi-skill departments, all those sorts of bits and pieces, we can help you unlock what the benefit of doing that would be, and then work out what the cost is to do that work as well. Other little bits and pieces we do a best practice benchmarking. So we have a benchmarking sort of tool set that we go through. How effective is the scheduling, forecasting, all those sorts of bits and pieces, and then we sort of rank those against other people in the market. And then the other bit we do as well is sort of a skills gap assessment of incumbent planning teams. So if you've got a planning team at the moment delivering this sort of activity, we can then come in and just see how mature they are against best practice and see where the gaps are, and then advise on how to fill those gaps and get the most out of the people you've got to make sure that they're getting their development and you're getting the rate of return you want out of the team. So our approach that we use is this 5-step approach. So the first sort of step that we have is what we call analyse and assess. And actually we do this for all our customers. So what we will do is we go in and do a 4-hour on-site workshop for free, and we'll literally go in and find out as much as we can about the business, how all the departments are set up, what's the volumes, the handle times, all those sorts of bits and pieces. And then what we can do is work out how complex the business is and what potential there is to increase efficiency and whether or not we can help. We might go into an organisation, actually everything's pretty much there already, so there's not really much of a case for them to engage our services. But if there is, we can highlight where those are. Next step, we get some data, run that through the models, see where that comes out, and that gives us actually the building blocks then to start building a solution up to start that journey towards optimisation. Design and develop is our step 3. That's actually going in, and then effectively what we do is we go through all the planning processes, rewrite anything that we need to, and go through this process with the customer to work out what is the best solution for them, and then really nail that down. Once we've nailed it down, we get it delivered. in there. Now, step 5 isn't one that we always go to. A lot of the time we end up just at step 4, where we just deliver the solution and it's done. But we can even, for some of our clients, they want sort of ongoing support and a bit of a managed service on that. So we'll go in periodically, we usually once a month, and rip through sort of what they're currently doing and making sure that everything's optimised, everybody, they're staying on track with that. Okay, so what I've got next is, so all that's sort of about our approach and everything else and how we do that. Our next bit is a bit of a case study of a customer that we've done this year. So what this is so this customer came to us at the back end of last year, and actually what they wanted a queue buster. So they came to buy a bit of tech because they had a high abandon rate, poor average speed of answer, and they thought queue buster would help. What we actually did was we proposed, let's go and have a look and find out why you want a queue buster and see actually if it will deliver any benefit in that environment. And actually it worked out that it wouldn't when we did the diagnostic, because it doesn't create time for you. And if you haven't got enough time to answer the calls that are incoming, you're not going to be able to deal with the ones that the queue buster then stacks up on top in your current environment. So we actually decided that wasn't the right solution for them, and what we did instead was we effectively proposed a consultancy package where we would come in, optimise everything, and then that will deliver some benefits. Once we've delivered those benefits and everything's optimised, we can then move on and look at things like tech and things like that to enhance the experience. So, go through this design and develop stage. So what we did was, in this kind of phase, really high abandon rates, 54%, average speed of answer, 857 seconds, 45% of the agent time was spent on customer-focused activity. The rest of it is just lost to shrinkage and everything else. And they are a social housing provider, so they work to a defined budget. So it's not just a case of you need 10 more people. There is no more money. We have to do it for nothing, essentially. So we align targeted outcomes to each of those findings. So we were to reduce the abandon rate, reduce the average speed of answer to their target. We said thought we could get to about 300 seconds initially against a target of 170. Increase the percentage of agent time, so increase the productivity, and obviously no cost, essentially, in there. So what we do is we kind of rank where we sit, these clients where they are. So this particular client was in the increase efficiency bucket. Now everybody wants to get into the transformation bucket at the top, but sometimes you have to move a bit around the grid. So the aim with these guys was to get them from increased efficiency into the maximising the customer outcomes, and then they can start looking at transformation. So what we did, so first stage is where we focused on delivery for this. So they didn't have any cohesive reporting suite. They couldn't see productivity accurately. They had the standard reporting tool set that comes out of the systems they were using, but nothing collated all that data together. So we built and deployed a reporting suite that did that. So it linked obviously the data from the telephony switch with the workforce management tool and all that sort of stuff, so they could see productivity and identify where gaps were. We made some changes to the core routing to maximise the efficiency. So they had like a really quick switchboard line, and actually what they did was spread that out across everybody, but they were really quick calls, so you ended up in this scenario where you were ignoring those really quick calls and really sort of handoffs for the sake of dealing with another call that's like 10 minutes. So we changed some bits and pieces in the core routing to kind of separate those out and then get those customers out of the way so they could spend the actual time dealing with the actual customers that needed help. We increased visibility of the agent activity and increased the team leader focus on that. So part of this is not just providing the reporting, but showing team leaders and ops managers how to utilise that reporting and what conversations to have with the agents and everybody else on the back of it. And then focusing on real-time management. So we see this in a lot of places. They come in, and if service is not where it should be, everybody spends all the day just trying to put fires out. There's no actual plan and focus in the moment. Everything's just, ASA is this and abandon rates, what do I do? So we kind of draw them back to having a plan and really focusing on the bits they can control, which will then take care of the other bits. So things like agent adherence and all that sort of stuff. So next stage of what we did was actually, we did what we like to call move from reactive to proactive. So go from sort of fighting the fire, so once the fire's pretty much out, as far as we can get it, then actually go into the planning stage of planning for future days, weeks in advance, so that you don't just come into everything being on fire every morning for them. So built and deployed a volume forecasting model, because they didn't have an accurate one. So we built that one, and then on the back of that, used that into a best practice resource planning model, which accurately predicts how many people they need by service line. They can feed their current staffing in, track attrition, new starter groups, it impacts for speed to competency, all those bits and pieces that make up that whole picture of available resource. We built and deployed a best practice version of that for them. We improved their shrinkage planning process. So we find in quite a few organisations the shrinkage models are not actually accurate to what happens in the organisation. So things like, people will pick up, the classic one is they'll pick up the one-off call centre helper, the shrinkage model on there, which is great if you work 365 days a year and you're open all the bank holidays. If you don't do that, it's not right, because it doesn't account for the fact that a lot of businesses either close or have a very reduced staffing requirement on a bank holiday. So there's lots sort of things like that it doesn't take into account. A lot of the time the meeting and training section isn't bespoke to what the business needs. There's things like grad bay coaching and speed to competency that get forgotten, and all those sorts of bits and pieces. So we went through and literally went through section by section, made sure that the annual leave was right based on the actual average of what the agents accrued and all those sorts of bits and pieces in there. And then the other thing that we did was we come up with a best practice set of schedules for them, because they're 24/7 on 60 FTE, so quite a small contact centre to be running full 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. So we came up with a bespoke set of schedules for them, not with a view to forcing everybody to change the shift, but actually what that did was it allowed them then, when they were recruiting people through attrition, to know what the best fit for the profile was and what shifts to offer those people. And then we went through a skills training matrix. So they have 30 different skills across the 60 people. And not everybody can do everything, as you can imagine, in that sort of environment. So we worked out what was the best order to train the people on. So which specific agents wanted training in which lines first to make the biggest impact overall. So, outcomes of all that from the client. So the baseline at the top, so they were answering about 5,200 calls a week, 54% abandon, average speed of answer about 15 minutes, just short of 15 minutes, average handle time 342 seconds. They had a sickness rate of 8% and work to pay, which is what we call productivity, of 45% when we went in. So in 8 weeks, we effectively nearly doubled the amount of calls they could answer. So we moved to 10,200 calls a week. We reduced the abandon rate down to 15%. Their average speed of answer actually dropped to 99 seconds. Now, we were only actually targeting to get it down to about 300, but it came, once we'd actually done everything, it just dropped all the way to below what their actual target was. Handle time dropped 12%, and the key bits with handle time and sicknesses, we didn't touch those. So we did absolutely no plan to impact handle time or sickness. They just dropped because once you create available time in the system, naturally handle time drops, sickness and absence drops, and all those sorts of bits and pieces. As I said, sickness cut in half to 4%, and then the efficiency, work to pay, went up by 29% to 58% in there, which for an organisation that size is pretty much world class, because they're very small. The smaller you are, the lower your efficiency because of higher available time. So the outcome of all that was worth 27 employees. So they would have had to employ 27 people to fill that gap. 50% capacity increase, £1 million a year saving. So that's £1 million of avoided cost for us going in for 8 weeks and optimising it. That's it, literally. So to the customers, that's 100,000 hours less wait time they've got each year. Average wait time per call reduced by over 10 minutes. And obviously you've got less frustration with the customers because they get an enhanced customer experience. And what that then lets them do is move into the transformation bucket. So we're talking to them about real-time speech and AI-enabled natural language IVRs now on the back of the work that we did in optimising the operation. And that's it. There you go. Thank you.